I am the only daughter of the Holmes family, raised since childhood by my parents to be the heir. Until one day, a beautiful woman confronted my mother with a pair of twins in tow, arrogantly declaring that she would take back everything that belonged to her. She claimed that it was she who had a one-night stand with my father 10 years ago, and that I was merely a bargaining chip my mother concocted to marry into the Valerian family. Upon hearing this, my mother simply scoffed and dialed my father's phone, signaling for me to speak. My voice was haughty, laced with indignation. "Dad, there's a crazy woman here who won't let us leave. She claims she's the one who deserves to be with you and that both children are yours. Don't you think there's something wrong with her head?" My parents entered into a marriage of business alliance, and they raised me as the heir from a young age. On my first birthday, my father transferred 3% of the company's shares under my name as a birthday gift. My mother gave me a magnificent castle. They never bothered to pretend to be affectionate in front of me, each having their own lovers, so much so that I received over a dozen gifts every birthday. The doll from Uncle Yelverton didn't like it, threw it away. The diamond necklace from the celebrity Stella, I liked it, so my mother let me keep it. And gifts from all sorts of uncles and aunts within their circles. At my 7th birthday party, my father's business partner gifted me a set of custom-made high-end jewelry. I hesitated, looking at my father, unsure whether I should accept it. He patted my head, crouched down, and looked straight into my eyes. "Serafina, if you like it, take it. You're the heir of the Holmes family, everything you desire will be yours." What I wanted? I wanted sparkling gemstones and gorgeous, elegant dresses. I also wanted lots and lots of money. At that time, still a child, I was already the well-known little princess of the Holmes family in high society circles. The elderly lady once advised my father to have another son to inherit the family business, but he refused. He said he couldn't let anyone shake my status as the heir. So when one of his lovers showed up with an illegitimate son, I wasn't too surprised. I just stood behind the half-open door, watching them with displeasure. My father coldly tossed down a card, his tone icy. "Take your son and get the hell away from me. Never show your face in front of me again. You know the consequences." The paternity test reports fluttered down like snowflakes, scattering across the floor as the woman collapsed, weeping bitterly in defeat. "Valerian, how could you?" Seeing this, the bodyguards moved to drag them out, but the little boy suddenly broke free and dashed toward me. He cursed angrily through gritted teeth, "It's all your fault, all your fault. Why do you get to stay with Mom and Dad?" I could have dodged, but for some inexplicable reason, I just stood there frozen. "Ah, this is really asking for trouble." He shoved me to the ground in one swift motion and went for my throat. In a daze, I lifted my gaze, feeling the sting of my scraped palms. "It hurts." The next second, he was kicked to the ground. Hearing the noise, my mother rushed downstairs to help me up, then turned and slapped him hard. "What kind of scum dares to hit my daughter?" My mother glared at my father, her voice rising. "Valerian, I don't interfere with your personal life, but now your mistress and illegitimate child have come knocking, and even dared to lay a hand on my daughter. Don't you think you owe me an explanation?" Valerian's expression darkened. He rubbed his temples irritably and signaled to the 2 bodyguards with a glance. "Send her abroad and don't let her come back." With that, he coldly ignored the woman's pleas and turned his gaze to the little boy on the ground. "And as for this little brat, figure out a way to send him to an orphanage." Mother let out a disdainful snort before finally turning around to carry me to the sofa, fetching the first aid kit to treat the wounds on my palms. No one offered me an explanation. The matter passed as if it had never happened. My father bought a pile of gifts to cheer me up and even personally took me to an auction to assert my identity. Yet, through this, I saw clearly the disgrace and filth of this family. But what did it matter? After all, I was a qualified heir. After attending the prestigious school for 3 years, a pair of twins suddenly transferred into my class. The younger sister stood obediently behind her brother, her voice sweet and childish. "Hello everyone, my name is Lily. I look forward to your kindness." The little boy was holding a miniature laptop in his hands, which appeared to be the latest model. With a stern expression, his face somewhat resembling my father's, he coldly uttered, "Caspian. Let's all welcome our new classmate," the teacher encouraged, but only scattered applause erupted in the room. A few curious gazes fell upon them, while I rested my chin on my hand, watching them with interest. Seeing them looking at me, I casually clapped my hands a couple of times. Could this be my dad's illegitimate child? He looks irritating. After class, the young master of our class blocked Caspian with 2 lackeys in tow. "Hey! I've never seen you before. Who are your parents?" He shoved Caspian and asked rudely. Caspian glanced up at them coldly, shielding Lily behind him. "Move aside. Don't look down on us." Lily, meanwhile, held Caspian's hand and puffed up angrily, saying, "What's it to you? My mom is amazing. Lily, let's go." Caspian gave her a gentle look and led her away from the side. Seeing that the person had already left, I waved my hand idly, my gaze settling on the notebook in Caspian's drawer. How interesting. After school, I instructed the butler to investigate the identities of the 2 little ones. Their mother is called Vespera. For some reason, she went abroad 10 years ago and returned with 2 children. Interestingly, she is my mother's half-sister, making her my aunt. This doesn't seem like a coincidence. I narrowed my eyes, already forming a suspicion in my mind. "Miss, should we continue the investigation?" The butler stood respectfully by my side. I took a big gulp of milk and hopped off the couch, walking barefoot toward the door. Halfway there, I stopped and turned back, a thoughtful expression on my face. No need. "Oh, by the way, what has Vespera been doing since returning to the country? How did she get a spot at our school?" "It's related to the Wenwood family. Alaric must have intervened to secure the school placement. Also, it shows here that Vespera just submitted a resume to Holmes and is scheduled for an on-site interview tomorrow. I've heard Dad mention Alaric before. He didn't get involved in the family disputes and instead became a doctor. He was abroad a few years ago too. But based on the timeline, Lily and Caspian couldn't possibly be his children. The fact that Vespera went for a Holmes interview right after returning to the country was clearly intentional. Having already reached a certain conclusion in my heart, I sighed and picked up my phone to text my parents, asking when they would be home. After pondering for a moment, I smiled again, the expression pure and innocent. If she's going to interview at my future company, then it's not too much for me to drop by tomorrow, is it? The steward bowed his head and replied, "It is entirely up to you, Mississippi." It was very late when Mom came home, and Valerian said there was an important meeting at the company, so he wouldn't be coming back tonight. I was wearing an adorable cat print nightgown, clinging to my mom's arm and cooing affectionately. "Just let me go to the company and take a look. I miss Dad too." "Well, I don't miss it that much, but I just want to go to the company and take a look." Mom gently tapped my forehead with affection, readily agreeing. "Then go in the morning, let the family driver take you there." "Thanks, Mommy." I kissed her cheek, my voice sweet and tender. "But don't wander around and interfere with others' work, alright? I'll pick you up at noon." "Sleep a little longer," she said, tucking me in before standing up to leave. I buried my head in the soft blankets and closed my eyes contentedly, already eager to witness some drama. When I arrived at the company the next morning, I spotted 2 familiar figures in the lobby, Caspian and Lily. A stylishly dressed woman was bending over to speak with them, only her profile visible. She was indeed quite beautiful. I paused mid-step, then turned to head toward the boss's private elevator on the other side. My mom had already informed my dad about my visit this morning. He said he'd be waiting for me in his office on the top floor. Several employees greeted me along the way, and I nodded back with a radiant smile on my face. After swiping my card, I went straight to the elevator and headed up to the 17th floor. Dad was in the office sipping coffee when he saw me arrive. He picked me up and spun me around. "My little princess is here. What brings you to the company today?" He set me down on the sofa, and I playfully winked at him. "Miss Daddy. Do you have any plans this morning? I want to go out and play with you." He glanced at his watch and refused me without hesitation. "There's an interview later that I need to attend personally. If you want to go out, let the butler accompany you." Hearing this, my heart skipped a beat, but I could only obediently agree. It couldn't possibly be some divine will, could it? Concealing my contemplation, I looked up and sweetly shook his hand. But why do you have to go personally?" The girl's eyes sparkled, her outer corner slightly upturned, reminiscent of a pampered kitten. Dad crouched down and patted my head, patiently explaining, "Today, we're hiring for my secretary position. As the boss, I naturally need to personally oversee it." "Oh, I remember the last secretary was his mistress, who got sent abroad. He wouldn't be looking for another one, would he?" I tilted my head slightly, my eyes brimming with even more anticipation. "All right then, I'll just wander around the company and won't disturb you." Since there was some business to attend to, my father and I returned to the first floor, where he went to discuss work with Leo, who was in charge of recruitment. Back in the elevator, just as the doors were about to close, a woman suddenly blocked them. She turned sideways onto the platform, casually brushing her hair aside to reveal a flawlessly angled profile. "My apologies, I'm late," she said politely, but no one responded. Humph. No idea what she was doing all that time on the first floor, anyway? I rolled my eyes at her but didn't call her out. Leo was about to tell her this was a private elevator when his father silenced him with just a look. That's right, those huge reserved signs by the elevator door were impossible to miss, yet she still insisted on squeezing in. It was undeniably deliberate. As if noticing me for the first time, she bent down with a smile, masking the disdain in her eyes with a triumphant glare. "Little one, why are you here alone?" I frowned and took my father's hand. "I'm not alone. This is my dad, the one in charge of Holmes." Watching the flicker of unwillingness and panic in her eyes, I continued with a mix of coquetry and complaint. "And I don't even know you. Why are you getting so close to me?" Noticing her momentarily blank expression, a glimmer of satisfaction flashed across my seemingly naive face. "No, I just wanted to." She hesitated, unsure of what to say. Not until the elevator doors opened did my dad finally put on a show of lecturing me for a bit. "Serafina, don't speak carelessly outside." It seemed Daddy didn't remember her. Seeing me nod obediently, he turned back to Vespera with a slightly apologetic expression. "Madam, Serafina has been spoiled since childhood and speaks without thinking. Please don't take it to heart." "No, how could that be?" Vespera tried her best to maintain a fake smile on her face, her gaze toward me tinged with resentment and envy. Indeed, she must hate me for taking her child's place, so naturally, she can't stand the sight of me. I smiled and bid farewell to my father, planning to take a walk around the area myself. And while I'm at it, I'll see what makes her two precious children think they can compete with me. After checking the entire first floor of the company and still not seeing them, I had no choice but to go to the security room to review the surveillance footage. A few minutes later, a video segment was pulled up. The footage showed Lily Caspian sitting obediently in the lobby when they received a phone call, and then they walked out together. A handsome man was waiting for them at the entrance. He picked up Lily as she ran toward him and patted her head. The group behaved intimately, and a rare genuine smile appeared on Caspian's face. Vespera has no connections domestically, so this must be Alaric. So Alaric is pursuing a woman who already has 2 children? A look of amusement appeared on my face. Did he truly disregard his family's reputation, and did he even know that those 2 illegitimate children were Valerians? Is this love? I puffed out my cheeks, then snorted dismissively. Mom and Dad taught me never to believe in love. The surveillance footage showed them entering a cafe near the company. I turned and waved at the 2 people in the security room. "I'll take my leave first, you must keep this a secret. Please." I raised my index finger to my lips, my eyes crinkling with a smile. The 2 hurriedly responded, "Yes, yes, take care on your way, young miss." I also quietly entered the cafe after leaving the company, observing the group from the other side of the glass window. Thank goodness, life finally isn't so boring anymore. A latte, please. The server came over to ask what I'd like to drink, so I randomly pointed at the menu while keeping my gaze fixed on the group. Lily and Caspian were sipping on their iced drinks while Alaric chatted with them, though his voice was too soft to hear clearly. He probably wanted to use the child as a starting point to win them over. Lily wrapped her arms around his neck coquettishly, while Caspian sat slightly stiffly by the side. Just as I took a sip of my latte and set the cup down, I saw Caspian pull his phone out of the bag, glance at it, say a few words, then hop off the stool and head toward the restroom. He was carrying a square-shaped bag in his hand, which must have been his computer. My heart skipped a beat. I took out a mask from my bag and put it on, then followed behind him. As I passed by Alaric, I happened to hear him speaking to Lily in a gentle voice. "Lily, do you like Uncle? How about letting Uncle be your daddy?" "Oh, but we already have a daddy." Lily lowered her head, nervously twisting her fingers as if struggling to gather her thoughts. Alaric didn't seem to take it seriously and smiled as he ruffled her hair. I continued walking forward without changing my expression, but a sudden aversion toward him welled up in my heart. Adhering to the principle of not letting them off easy, I lowered my head and sent a message. "Check Alaric's liquid assets over the past few years, and see if he's still meddling in the Wenwood family's company." The reply came instantly, "Got it." After turning off my phone screen, I realized I'd already walked to the restroom entrance, and Caspian had just gone in. Seeing there were no surveillance cameras by the restroom entrance, I cautiously pressed myself against the doorframe, listening to the sounds inside. The sound of keyboard tapping was particularly conspicuous. A few minutes later, I heard Caspian lower his voice and say, "Send it to you." When silence resumed, I quietly retraced my steps and slipped into the women's restroom just as he was about to walk out. I washed my hands while mulling over the voices I had just overheard. What does this mean? Is he that impressive? Perhaps he inherited my father's genes and is slightly more outstanding than average. But he's not worth keeping in mind or expending effort to eliminate. I turned off the faucet and thought indifferently. My phone in the bag suddenly vibrated, and as I walked out, I checked the message. It was a call from my mom. When I answered, her gentle yet subtly sharp voice came through. "Serafina, are you at the company now? I'm coming to pick you up. You have piano lessons and golf lessons in the afternoon." "I'm at the cafe near the company." I hesitated for a moment before answering. Without asking why, she simply told me to wait for her in the cafe. At the same time, I saw a radiant woman walk into the cafe. She took off the sunglasses on her face, revealing delicate features. "Why is Vespera here?" I sat down not far from them, observing with my back turned. She took Caspian's hand and winked at Alaric. "How could you take Lily and Caspian away by yourself?" I was so worried. "I just happened to pass by here." Seeing they were a bit bored, I took them out for some fun. "Why did you come to Holmes for an interview? If you're looking for a job, you could just start working at the Wenwood family company directly." Alaric wore a gentlemanly smile, gazing at Vespera with overflowing tenderness. A hint of arrogance and disdain flashed in Vespera's eyes as she cooed, "I don't want to rely on your connections. I just want to make it on my own merits." Did she actually get the job? I frowned slightly, though I wasn't particularly surprised. Her profile showed impressive academic qualifications, objectively outstanding, by all accounts. Moreover, although she had given birth to 2 children, she looked like a woman in her early 20s, youthful, pure, and beautiful to the point where it was hard for men not to adore her. With a bit of calculated charm, who would turn down such an alluring beauty throwing herself into their arms? Lily clapped her hands beside them, flattering, "Mommy is so amazing." Meanwhile, Caspian stood there torn between delight and contemplation, his handsome face tense with conflicting emotions. Just as Alaric was suddenly called away on urgent business, Vespera prepared to leave with the 2 children. A luxury car slowly pulled over by the roadside, and an elegant noblewoman stepped out, walking toward them. Spotting Vespera, she momentarily paused in surprise before her gaze shifted to Lily and Caspian. The atmosphere between them grew slightly tense until Vespera gracefully extended her hand. "It's been a long time, sister." There was an air of affected generosity. I pressed down my skirt billowing in the wind and made a funny face at Mom. My mother withdrew her gaze, wearing a polite smile, yet her eyes seemed to mock. "It's been 10 years, and my sister's child is already this big." "Indeed," Vespera patted Caspian's head, "say hello to your aunt." Before Caspian could react, my mother directly cut off her presumptuous scheming with a disdainful look. "No need. Not every stray can claim a connection to me." Tears suddenly welled up in Lily's eyes. Tipping her head back, she screamed, "You evil woman. You're the one who stole my dad away. You're the reason Mom and Dad had to split up. It's all your fault. Give me back my dad right now." These were certainly not words an innocent little girl would say on her own. I blinked at my mom with a sly grin. "Serafina, come to mommy." She ignored the 3 people in front of her and waved at me with a mix of helplessness and slight indulgence. I trotted over to mommy's side, widening my eyes innocently. "Don't you have your own daddy? How pitiful. Why do you keep thinking about my dad?" With the most innocent tone, I uttered the most vicious words, staring at them provocatively. "You." Caspian clenched his little fists. Seeing his sister cry, he could only glare at me resentfully before going to comfort Lily. Vespera cast a disdainful glance at me, her eyes filled with an unconscious hint of jealousy. Just like the scum's child, truly lacking in manners. She completely dropped her facade, proudly lifting her chin with a scornful gaze. "It was me who had a one-night stand with him 10 years ago. I'm the woman in his heart. The child is just your bargaining chip to marry him. He has no feelings for you at all, and soon, all of this will be mine." She was clearly still lost in her delusions. Otherwise, why would I have become his secretary? It's destiny that we'll be together. I looked at her in disbelief, unable to comprehend where her confidence came from. My maternal grandmother was the former head of the Jeongs of Berkeley, a woman of noble status who doted exceptionally on my mother, her youngest daughter. The Jeongs of Berkeley was also a powerful family in City A, and my parents' marriage was arranged as a business alliance from the very beginning. I don't even know what she's being so sentimental about. After 10 years, you're still as foolish as ever. My mother looked at her with a mixture of disgust and pity, then picked me up. She took out her phone, dialed my father's number, and held it to my ear, signaling me to speak. My voice was spoiled and tinged with displeasure. "Dad, there's a crazy woman here who won't let us leave. She claims she's the one who deserves to be with you, and that both kids are yours. Don't you think there's something wrong with her head?" As my words faded, Vespera's expression turned ghastly, alternating between shades of green and white. The man's magnetic voice came through the phone. "Who made my little princess angry?" Lily, standing stubbornly by the side, pursed her lips and said in a tearful, coquettish voice, "Daddy." The air fell silent for a few seconds as Vespera's face flickered with a moment of tension. Just as she was about to speak, my mother took the phone and asked coldly, "Your company's new secretary claims her 2 children are yours and is demanding you take responsibility. Was this your instruction too? How is that possible?" Valerian's voice was filled with helplessness and a faint trace of nervousness. "I just met her today, if..." "Good." My mom hung up the phone directly and raised an eyebrow at Vespera. "Vespera, don't spread rumors carelessly. You could face legal consequences for that." "You." Vespera glared with her beautiful eyes, her fingers clutching her purse tightly. I stuck my tongue out at Lily, smiling innocently. "Even if you don't have a dad, you shouldn't go around claiming other people's fathers as your own." She was so angry she almost cried again, while Caspian on the other side appeared much calmer, seemingly deep in thought with a displeased expression. Vespera felt humiliated. She opened her mouth but ultimately just snorted through her nose. Then she glared at us fiercely and delivered a threat. "Just wait. You'll regret this." Ah, it seems she has no brain. I shook my head, turned around, and led Mom toward the luxury car. Back at school, I noticed Lily glaring at me with clear disgust in her eyes, as if she couldn't accept it. So before the activity class the next day, I saw her sneakily stuffing something into my backpack. I smiled nonchalantly and quietly turned away from the classroom door. Throughout the entire class, Lily and Caspian were left out in the cold. Though they tried their best to act indifferent, the glances they cast at me still carried a twisted sense of jealousy. After returning to the classroom, Lily let out a puzzled huh, and began rummaging through her desk. Then, she raised her hand in surprise to alert the teacher. I lost a silver 4-leaf clover bracelet. I was wearing it before, took it off and put it in the drawer this morning, but when I came back, it was gone. Her voice was anxious, but she kept her head down guiltily, glancing at my spot several times. That's my lucky bracelet, boo-hoo. Caspian, sitting beside him, suddenly raised his hand to get the teacher's attention, his little face serious. I don't feel well in my stomach, I need to go to the restroom. Go ahead. The teacher waved impatiently and glanced at Lily. It's your own fault for not keeping your things safe, so you'll have to face the consequences. Look for it again yourself, don't bother your classmates. But, Lily didn't expect the teacher to be so decisive. She turned to glare at me unwillingly and pointed her finger. When I came back, I saw Serafina taking something from my desk. Teacher, I demand to search her bag. What kind of childish game is this? I looked up in confusion. Before I could even speak, whispers began to spread around me. How could that be? Holmes is so rich, would Serafina possibly steal from her? Exactly, I think she's just jealous of Serafina. Most of the crowd remained silent, glaring at Lily with hostile expressions. Lily covered her ears and stomped her feet twice before suddenly lunging forward to grab my backpack. It's really her, if you don't believe me, just look. Ah. During the struggle, I deliberately let go of my grip suddenly, causing her to fall backward onto the ground, grimacing in pain. At the same time, a silver 4-leaf clover bracelet slipped out, making a crisp sound. This is it. She didn't even care about the pain anymore, grabbing the bracelet as she scrambled to her feet. With a triumphant expression, she waved it in front of everyone, as if she had proven something. See? She's the one who stole my things. The teacher's expression turned odd, and the classmates began murmuring among themselves. Some took the opportunity to slander me, but most spoke in my defense. Seeing no one affirm her, Lily anxiously repeated loudly. Didn't you see? It was her who stole it. The teacher frowned and turned to ask me, was it you who took it? I shook my head. No, I didn't take it. Seeing Lily passionately trying to convict me, the teacher impatiently interrupted her. I believe student Hua wouldn't do such a thing. You must be mistaken. Return to your seat. Lily glanced around the classroom, her eyes brimming with tears, looking more aggrieved than anyone else. You're all bullying me. She stamped her foot and ran out of the classroom as she spoke. Probably to snitch, because 15 minutes later, a woman in a white dress walked into the office in high heels, holding Lily's hand. Vespera spoke with authority, I believe my daughter doesn't lie, yet you're trying to cover for a thief. I demand an explanation. I sat on the office couch, dialing my father's number under her furious gaze. Dad, I'm being bullied at school. Someone accused me of stealing. Can you come here? Seemingly thinking I was playing the victim, Vespera's expression changed. She crouched down to comfort Lily, her voice soft yet loud enough for everyone to hear. Don't be afraid, Lily. Mommy will protect you. You did nothing wrong, they're the ones at fault. Meanwhile, Caspian stood by the office door, quietly listening to the conversation inside. Valerian's voice came through the phone. I'll be there in 10 minutes, wait for me. Seeing the situation escalate, the teacher suggested checking the surveillance footage, but the security guard in the monitoring room found that the cameras had mysteriously malfunctioned. It wasn't like this before. Why did it suddenly stop working today? This is clearly your school's problem. You must be deliberately hiding it from me to protect certain people. This is absolutely outrageous. Vespera widened her eyes and continued to pin the thief's hat on my head. What she didn't see was Lily's pale face relaxing slightly, the terror in her eyes vanishing without a trace. Caspian was still standing outside the door, carrying his backpack, with a hint of smugness on his typically cold face. I stared at the four-leaf clover bracelet on the coffee table and lightly curled my lips. How could it be as simple as you think? 10 minutes later, Valerian walked into the office wearing a suit. Even in his 30s, he still looked dashing. He was slightly surprised to see Vespera but simply nodded, ignoring the teacher's fawning expression. May I ask what happened to my daughter at school? Well, the teacher hesitated, unsure how to broach the subject. Meanwhile, Vespera pulled Lily forward and interjected, Valerian, your daughter stole my daughter's bracelet. Impossible. Valerian outright rejected the answer, his gaze fixing on the bracelet on the coffee table. What could my daughter possibly lack that she'd need to steal something so cheap? I also nodded in grievance and added, Lily falsely accused me. I didn't steal it. Valerian. Vespera bit her lip, feigning strength as she glared up at Valerian. You can't favor your daughter like this. Even though this isn't expensive, it's a gift I gave to Lily, you. Where's the surveillance footage? Valerian raised his hand to interrupt her incessant chatter. The teacher looked apologetic. I'm not sure why it suddenly malfunctioned, the data couldn't be recovered. It's being repaired now. He lowered his head to look at me, and I nodded at him. Let me take a look. Valerian moved the computer over and began checking the data. Caspian, who had been standing at the door all along, now shifted slightly and turned to leave. Valerian began typing on the keyboard, working through the complex data on the screen. In just a few minutes, he stood up and turned the screen to face everyone in the office. It's restored. See for yourselves. As the surveillance footage began to play, I saw Lily's legs frozen as if pinned in place, her face showing panic and struggle. No. She wanted to rush over and turn off the computer, but it was already too late. The screen clearly displayed the entire process of her stealthily placing the bracelet into my bag. Lily's mom, it's clear now. Please apologize to Serafina. The teacher cast a disdainful glance at them, his expression full of contempt. How is that possible? The Sarah was momentarily stunned, her expression quickly turning extremely grim. She crouched down and vigorously shook Lily's shoulders, shouting in disappointment, Lily, how could you do such a thing? Mom trusted you so much. I just don't know if it was genuine or not. Lily was so frightened that she burst into tears, then turned her head sharply to glare at me. I just hate her. Why can she be with Dad when my brother and I can't? That's the woman who stole my father away. Vespera covered her mouth, though it seemed somewhat deliberate. Lily. I looked up to observe Valerian's expression and caught a fleeting glimpse of annoyance in his eyes, yet he didn't appear surprised. He must have known by now. The teacher pretended not to hear and apologized to Valerian. Valerian, I'm sorry for wasting your time. It's fine. I'll take my leave now. He nodded expressionlessly and left. I also jumped down from the sofa and picked up the four-leaf clover bracelet on the coffee table. No need to apologize to me, but since you set me up, I'll take this bracelet. I clasped my hands together and cooed, Lily, thank you so much. After Vesper probably felt utterly humiliated, she withdrew Lily and Caspian from school. But she didn't let it go either. One evening not long after, while I was watching TV in the living room, my mom's phone nearby suddenly chimed with a message alert. After hesitating for a few seconds, I quietly unlocked the screen. In a blank chat window, Vespera sent a picture along with several lines of text. She wore a coquettish expression, though the image was too messy and unseemly to look at. I curled my lips and continued reading. Don't think you can keep his heart. The one he truly loves is me. After 10 years, all it took was a little seduction, and he was mine. You just used some underhanded methods to force him into marrying you. I told you you couldn't win against me. Once I make him divorce you, let's see what you'll do with that little bastard of yours. I frowned in annoyance and let out a cold snort. This woman really is haunting me like a lingering ghost. I called Valerian several times, but it just rang a few times without connecting. I set the message as unread and put the phone back in its place. A few minutes later, Mom came out of the bedroom after finishing her face mask. She casually picked up the phone and saw the provocative message from Vespera. She lowered her eyes without saying a word, as if she was thinking about something. I turned off the TV and asked a seemingly casual question. Mommy, that Alaric in the coffee shop that day seemed like her pursuer. Why would he like her? Does he really know her? My mom's fingers paused while scrolling the screen, and she gave me a reproachful glance. You really are something. Maybe he doesn't know her true colors. Huh? I blinked my cat-like eyes. What if he doesn't believe it? TCH, my mother said with a sharp glare. I remember he has several Wenwood family companies under his management, right? Uncle Zhang, please give me his information. The butler didn't look at me, but respectfully nodded in agreement. Yes, madam. I pursed my lips indifferently with a faint O. On Monday morning, as I was having breakfast in the dining room, my mother's gaze lingered on me with a hint of satisfaction. I kept my head down, taking small bites of my sandwich. After wiping my mouth with a tissue, I murmured, I'm done. I'll head to school first. No rush, my mom suddenly curved her eyes into a smile, waving the luxury car key in her hand. I've already called in sick for you at school. You don't have to go today. She reached out her hand to me. How about accompanying Mom to watch a good show? Since it was a weekday, Valerian and Vespera were both at the company at this time. I'm not sure if it's because of the timing, but just as I arrived at the company entrance, I saw Alaric stepping out of his car with a gloomy expression, his face looking terrible. He grabbed a receptionist and immediately asked where Vespera was, scaring the poor girl into verifying his identity 3 times before answering. Vespera is a secretary, so she should be in the CEO's office. To witness the drama firsthand, my mom went straight to the security room and ordered the staff to turn on the surveillance feed of the CEO's office. You all go out first, just Serafina and I will stay here. She smiled at those employees. Don't go spreading rumors around, all right? Yes, of course, ma'am. Take your time. The employees hastily walked out, closing the door behind them. On the surveillance screen, I watched Valerian's every move. He was sitting in his office chair when Vespera knocked and entered the room. Valerian. She carried a cup of coffee, and from the surveillance angle, the full curves beneath her low-cut blouse were visible. Your coffee, she said. Seeing Valerian merely nodding to indicate she should place it on the table, Vespera turned sideways to close the door before circling behind him. Relax, Valerian. Let me give you a massage. Valerian didn't refuse either. Instead, he allowed her movements to grow increasingly bold, until she finally straddled him directly. The atmosphere between them grew charged, teetering on the brink of physical contact. Mom quickly covered my eyes, telling me not to look. It's too dirty. Keep your eyes covered. Just as the two of them were about to take the next intimate step, the office door was suddenly flung open. Vespera was startled, hastily moving away from him and retreating behind Valerian with disheveled clothes. Alaric's eyes turned red with anger at the sight, glaring at Vespera through gritted teeth. So your innocence was all an act, just to use me. I never expected you to go as far as seducing a married man, how shameless. Valerian calmly adjusted his shirt, every movement exuding utmost refinement. He looked up coldly and asked, Where are the security guards? Who allowed you to come in without permission? A flicker of struggle flashed in Vespera's eyes, as if she had resolved not to turn things around. With feigned strength, she spoke up. What right do you have to blame me? I've only ever treated you as a friend. Now that you've found out, I might as well be straightforward. Valerian is the real father of Caspian and Lily, so stop fantasizing. Alaric didn't dare to escalate the situation in Holmes. Fuming, he nodded repeatedly and threw out a final remark. You just wait, I won't forgive you for this. The door slammed shut with a sharp crack, and Vespera let out a sigh of relief. She gazed pitifully at Valerian. Woo-woo. Don't listen to his nonsense, I truly love you. Actually, 10 years ago, the woman who had a one-night stand with you at the hotel was me. Lily and Caspian are also your children. She continued as if victory was assured. I know you were forced to marry that woman. Maybe Serafina isn't even your daughter. You. Before she could finish speaking, she was suddenly slapped hard by Valerian. Who said you could slander my daughter? His face had already turned pale when he heard Vespera say that Lily and Caspian were his children, and now there was added anger and regret in his eyes. My only daughter is Serafina. The others have nothing to do with the Holmes family. I've told you before not to get any ideas. Vespera covered her reddened cheek, looking up at him in disbelief. They are your children. Valerian. Didn't you say you loved me? How could you? Valerian irritably poured his coffee into the trash bin and growled, I'll say it one more time, this was just a fling. I've already given you what you deserved. Don't push your luck. Vespera seemed unable to believe her own ending, covering her face as she wept. No, it can't be like this. How could you not love me? Valerian's words were cruel and indifferent. I've slept with plenty of women 10 years ago. You were just one of them. Who knows which hotel rendezvous you're even talking about? Don't even think of using the child as leverage against me. I never asked you to have it. Don't dream of taking a slice of the Holmes fortune. Seeing Vespera sitting dazed on the floor, he wearily rubbed his temples. Get out, and don't ever show your face in front of me again. What a show that was. Let's go. I tilted my head and smiled, seeing my mom checking the earlier surveillance footage. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and spoke in a carefree tone. Not that stupid after all, everything that needed to be deleted has been deleted. She crouched down and gently stroked my hair, her tone full of care. Serafina, you must remember, men are the most unreliable things. You saw it for yourself today. I thought for a moment, then nodded solemnly. Mom took my hand and led me outside. It's time to put an end to this boring game. That evening, Valerian returned home still looking exhausted. Clearly, the matter hadn't been resolved yet. I quietly approached the door of his study and heard voices inside. I told you not to bother me anymore, you're fired. His tone was undeniably impatient and disdainful. Vespera's tearful voice came intermittently, Valerian, don't you really love me? I endured 10 years abroad just for. Seeing the person on the other end of the phone unmoved, Vespera's sobs paused for a moment before she resorted to a threat. You wouldn't want the public to know about your illegitimate child, would you? That would surely cause significant damage to your company, no? An illegitimate child has equal inheritance rights too. Noticing the continued silence from the other end, she shifted tactics and revealed her true motive. As long as you marry me, none of this will matter. You'll realize you still love me. The delusions are confirmed. Are you threatening me? Valerian responded with a chilling smile. How can you prove it? A paternity test report, no one would believe you. I warned you not to threaten me, Vespera. You're truly despicable. I could make you vanish from this world. At that moment, I knocked on the study door and carefully pushed it open to enter. The call was immediately disconnected, and Valerian put on a gentle mask, asking, Why aren't you asleep yet? What do you need from Daddy? I stared at him expressionlessly with wide, pitch-black eyes. Mom and I already know about what you've done. It's you and that woman, isn't it? Valerian showed no trace of anger or embarrassment. Instead, he took out a diamond necklace from the drawer, crouched down, and fastened it around my neck. He gazed directly into my eyes and stroked my smooth, long hair. That's just how men are. Didn't your mother tell you? He changed the subject to something else. I think that young master from the Greshams is quite nice. Next time we go to the Greshams, come with me. Let's nurture some feelings while you're still young. I responded grumpily and was about to close the door and leave when I suddenly stuck my head back out as if remembering something. Be quick and sort it out properly, don't cause any trouble for Mom. Don't worry. He seemed to have seen through my intentions and spoke calmly. I've told you, you're the sole heir of Holmes. I gently closed the door and turned to leave. Just as I reached the room's entrance, the door suddenly swung open. Mom stood at the door, looking at me with a teasing expression, exuding a triumphant vibe of having caught me red-handed. I gave an awkward smile before being swiftly pulled onto the bed by her. You really are clever. She pinched my cheek, sounding narcissistic as she said, truly my daughter. I rested my chin on my hand, looking up at her, her beautiful eyes reminiscent of an elegant cat. Did that woman go looking for Alaric? She did. And the devoted simp, seeing his goddess now throwing herself at him, was instantly overwhelmed with pity. Though just a few weeks ago, his company was on the verge of collapse, and most of his people had been replaced by others from the family. Do you think Vesper would still fancy him? I shook my head, feigning a pitying expression. How interesting, I really wonder what will become of her in the future. Curious, huh? My mother raised a finger to her lips, eyes gleaming with mischief. I can tell you. Later, Mom said that Valerian planned to send Vespera and her 2 children to another province, warning them not to return, and also promised to deposit 100,000 in living expenses into her account every month. I acted cute with Dad a few times, and the task of transferring money landed on me. Initially, I transferred 100,000 every month. After a few months, I started sending money however I felt, sometimes 10,000, sometimes 50,000. Gradually reduced to thousands, and finally cut off her credit card. This is what my father taught me, to learn how to control others' psychology. She has always enjoyed buying all kinds of luxury goods, and now she can't stand a life without freely spending money. Years later, I had the butler investigate. I heard she had already hooked up with a wealthy older man in town and abandoned her 2 children to marry him. Little did I know that old man was abusive, his previous wife died from his domestic violence. Vespera couldn't voice her suffering and had no choice but to endure in silence, lest she lose her only source of income. When I heard how badly she was doing, I was sipping afternoon tea in the garden and couldn't help but smirk with schadenfreude. How utterly delightful, I remarked. Where are Caspian and Lily? The butler checked the documents without changing his expression and said, they didn't fare well either. Lily was sent to an orphanage, and Caspian seemed to have some money of his own, barely enough to support himself. Oh. I smiled indifferently and took a sip of the slightly sweet floral tea. After half an hour of contemplation, I handed the butler a card. There's 2 million in this card. Invest in Caspian, keep him under my watchful eye. I absolutely won't allow such an unpredictable variable to develop on its own. At the age of 18, during the official announcement, I formally inherited 33% of Holmes' shares. I became engaged to the heir of the Greshams, though in essence, it remained a business marriage. Thanks to my parents' upbringing, I never intended to seek true love in the first place. My life is already perfect, you know.